Now we're going to take a chance to add a highlight that connects between these two charts. So if we hover on a circle on one chart, we want that to show up in the other chart, so we can see, for example, where these points that are getting washed away in the regular plot are showing up here in our log plot. So to do this, we already added a highlight function, and we're going to do 3 additional things. We're going to add a hover, we're going to add a method to set a hover callback, and then we're going to call that hover callback. So in 3 pieces, this is going to, we can detect when we hover, right, and highlight the point on that chart. And then we can go ahead and reach across the other chart and call the highlight function on that chart. We already exposed highlight as a function. So the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to replace the highlight function that we just wrote with a filter, which is slightly more efficient. So this will just run a little bit quicker, which we'll need when we're doing we're calling the highlight function a bunch of times in a row. So we wanted to add a hover, and this is one of the things that you all see is pretty fun in D3. So a lot of work to make a basic scatter plot and a log scatter plot, but now we can add interactions, and this is where it gets fun. So to add the hover, we're just going to add a callback to the mouse over event. So mouse over is an event, and we can pass a function to that. We can take di, our canonical arguments, and in here we want to do something, right? We can do anything when we hover over. So we get d and I. So d is the data, right? I is the index, and we could also get a reference to the element list. Right, the thing I want to mention is we get this, which is a reference to the function context. So here, that's the element. So if we want to go ahead and do something with this element, we can go d3.select of this. So we can reselect the element, right, and then we can set whatever attributes we want. So if we want to set the fill attribute to know that we've hovered on it, we can set the fill attribute to red, and we can make it a little bigger too if we want. So we can set the radius to be 3. So if we go ahead and run this, we're going to see that the points change color and size when we hover on them. Right there, they go, and they do stay this way. So if you wanted to hover that changes state and then changes back, we're just going to want to go ahead and reset it when we hover off. So mouse over is when you hover over a point, and mouse out is when you hover off. So you go ahead and when you mouse out, set the fill back to black, and the radius back to 1.5. Okay. So now we have a hover which sets and unsets the points, right? So we can go ahead and mark that one as complete. All right. So now we want to go ahead and set a callback method. We want to be able to set a callback. So what we want to be able to do is in our mouse over, we want to be able to go and call something on the other chart, right? So here we're going to use call a callback function with the input I, right? Well, we need to be able to set that callback function here. So just like we were able to set the data, right? We're going to use the same getter setter pattern. So callback, instead of a list, callback is going to be a function. So we can just set this to be an empty function for now, and then we're going to use the same pattern to set this getter setter pattern to go ahead and set that function. Right. So now we can set a function. We just need to expose that method, and we'll do this the same way we did here, where we have. It's called callback, and it's going to go ahead and call that callback setter. So that part's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to add methods to these modules, right? So we're done there. Maybe the hardest part's copying this strikeout over. And now we want to go ahead and call that hover callback. So what do we want to happen? So when we hover on points on this bottom one, we want those to show up on the top one. Right? Well, we know how to do that because if we're on index 4 down here, right, we want to highlight index 4 up here. Well, we know how to do that because we already created the highlight function. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and say rank frequency plot 2, right? We're going to set the callback, and we want to set that callback actually to be the highlight function on rate frequency plot 1. So we can set that highlight function across these two. Okay, so let's go ahead and save and run that. And what do we see? Okay, so if we go down here, we added to the second plot. So if we go down here and we hover on a point on this plot, right, we should see that highlighted on the top one. So yep, if we hover on the second point, right, we should see that in the second place. And similarly in third place, we should see that. Fourth place, yep, so it looks like it's working. Maybe it would help to go ahead and make that pop up a little bit bigger. So if we wanted to do that, of course, we could just change our highlight function to set the filter to fill the red, and we could have the same effect by setting the radius to 3 here. And then to hook this up to complete it, we can just go ahead and add the callback the other way. So from rate frequency plot 1, we can go ahead and call 2. So now these plots are totally linked up. And so let's see if we hover down here. Yep, we can see where those are showing up on the other plot, right? So this stuff that gets buried at about this point. So if we're down here, right? Yep. All right, and that's all. We've connected these, I would say, pretty manually using D3 and callbacks.